Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been forever since I posted a video and I am so sorry about that. Like many of you, the holiday season can become super hectic, especially if you have children or family coming to town. It's just a busy time of year. I also took a couple vacations. I'm very blessed in that I was able to take 2 trips in the last 6 or 8 weeks. I went to Mexico with my parents and my kids, and then in between that, I had family in town for New Year's Eve, a bunch of family in, and had a great time with them. And then went to Costa Rica for almost a week for a friend's birthday without kids. So that was without kids and my parents. So that was extra fabulous trip. And I just had a wonderful time. If you've never been to Costa Rica and you have the opportunity, go. I loved it so much. What a beautiful country. So if you live in Costa Rica, I loved your country. So with that said, then I came back and, you know, it takes a little time to kind of get back into the swing of things, and the kids, you know, well, they'd already started back up in school, but you know, you got the homework, and then in Vegas, you know, the kids can play soccer year round because the weather's nice. So soccer practice starts back up again, and I'm rambling, I'm making excuses, but truth be told, I almost didn't start back up this channel. While I greatly appreciate all the support that I have received, that I received in 2015. I mean, some of you have just been so awesome and so supportive and so enthusiastic and cheering me on. But there does come a point where you're just kind of like, I'm spending time doing these videos. Is anybody really watching them? Would anybody really care if I'm gone? I mean, there's so many people out there right now just putting out fantastic videos, such high quality videos. Their editing is just on point. They're young, they're beautiful. They're saturating, kind of like YouTube, but they're doing a great job of it. So it's like, you know, what am I doing in here? Sometimes I question that, but I do feel like I do have some information to give you. I do still have a career in cosmetics. I am still a makeup junkie. I feel like I have a worthwhile point of view. So if you are new to my channel, you're like, this girl talks way too much. Well, newsflash, I kind of do. But I felt like I have to give you this bit of an introduction. So for those of you who have been watching, if this is your first time watching my video, you came for the review, so you're like, shut up. But for those of you who have been subscribers for a while and actually have been waiting for a new video, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an explanation as to where I've been and what's kind of going on in my head. So without further ado, let's get to the review. Okay, so approximately 1 year ago, I had one of my most successful videos, I guess you could say, on YouTube. It probably has my most number of views, and it is of the NARS Luminous Foundation that came out last year, right about this time. This year, NARS has launched something called the Velvet Matte Skin Tint. It is broad spectrum SPF 30 sunscreen. This came out at the NARS boutiques and at NARS online on January 15th. And then I believe it launches this coming Monday, February 1st, at Sephora and wherever else you can find NARS, at NARS counters. So I was not that intrigued by this product at first, because whenever I hear the word skin tint, I think light coverage, tint, if you will, you know, just a light coverage on the skin. And being that I have very oily skin, large pores, some marks from old breakouts, I am a coverage girl. If you've watched my videos in the past, you know I like a medium to full coverage foundation. Anything else either just doesn't work for me, or it doesn't have enough coverage, or it doesn't stay on my skin, etc, etc. It's just, I'm not a tinted moisturizer girl. I'm not a BB cream kind of girl, because those things just slide right off my oily face, even with a primer. When I do foundation reviews, I also like to test them with and without a primer. I'm not huge on first impressions, because if I'm going to do this video, I want to tell you the results I got with different applications, as well as different days, different environments. Let's get started with the basics. So the skin tint is $44. It comes in 12 shades. It is 1.7 ounces. The shades are new to me because I've never worn a NARS tinted moisturizer before. Even though this isn't technically a tinted moisturizer, it's a skin tint. They don't label it as a tinted moisturizer. I kind of, when I first heard about it, I thought tinted moisturizer, but it's definitely very different than that. So the names, I probably should have looked it up before I started, but I don't know if they match up with the other NARS tinted moisturizer. I know Alaska sounded familiar and Finland, but to me, these were all new shades. So if you are like, you know, Barcelona or any of the other shades in like the other NARS foundations, those are not the same as this. These have entirely new names, new colors. So I do recommend, you know, doing what you're doing now, which is researching the product, looking for swatches, comparisons, skin tones, all that kind of thing before you order online, or obviously just visit the counter if you have that ability. So I am in the shade Groenland, G-R-O-E-N-L-A-N-D. It is also known as light number 3. I would say I've been doing a lot of self-tanning. I haven't done it recently, but I've been doing a lot of self-tanning because of the vacations I was taking. So, oh my gosh, my foundations range anywhere from, you know, NC 25 to NC 40, depending on how I self-tan. So I am going to do some comparisons with what I've got here. And then I'm also going to show you a possible dupe for this foundation if $44 is not in your budget and you want a similar look. So it is in a squeeze tube, and I would say the coverage is medium, buildable to full. Okay, now that said, I always state this in my videos because everybody's definition of full coverage is different. To some, full coverage can be, you know, it's going to be like your Marc Jacobs, your Estee Lauder Double Wear. To some people, they might consider this full coverage. To me, full coverage will cover everything without needing concealer. Meaning if you have spots on your face from old breakouts or freckles, full coverage is going to cover that. Medium coverage is something like this where you can still see some of those marks. You might want to use concealer, but if you go over it again, you might be able to, depending on how dark those marks are or what you're trying to cover, it might actually cover those up. So in my experience, it was medium, buildable to full. I was able to cover all of my marks. So again, this is shocking because when you hear skin tint, you're probably like me, you're thinking tint, it's not going to be full coverage. So don't go into it thinking it's like an Estee Lauder Double where it's going to give you that kind of coverage right off the bat, or like Marc Jacobs where you put one dot and poof, you are fully covered. This is nice because you really can get that medium coverage, which is nice for most skins, and then it also can be sheared down if you mix it, if you use a damp beauty blender or you know, sheared out with some moisturizer. So now for application, you can use your fingers, you can use a beauty blender, you can use a Sigma, or it doesn't have to be Sigma, but I use a Sigma F80 flat top kabuki brush. So a lot of people are into brushes, some are just into beauty blenders, some are just into their fingers, whatever is your thing. I've tried them every single way. The best way for me personally was the beauty blender, a little bit damp. While I did get the best coverage from the flat top kabuki, I did find it a little bit streaky, but I find that with a lot of foundations in a brush, it does get a little streaky and I don't know, I liked the finish, the look of it better with the damp beauty blender. It just looked really nice skin-like, wasn't completely matte. Even though it is velvet matte, it wasn't like so matte where your skin looked like it was like a porcelain doll, which some people want, but for me, I like my skin to look more realistic and have some dimension to it. So it doesn't leave your face completely blanked out, matte, cracked, all that, which is a complaint of a lot of people who wear matte foundations, matte full coverage foundations. They feel like they smile and everything just cracks and it's not cute. Maybe cute in photographs, not so cute in real life. So if you're looking for nice medium coverage, if you have drier skin, as I say with all my videos, I cannot attest to that. Although I did use it on a client this past week who had more combo, you know, to dry skin, and it really didn't cling to her dry patches. Again, I used a damp beauty blender, but I didn't find that it clung to any dry patches on her skin. I do have some dry patches on my skin, didn't cling to those either. Now, as far as staying power, I got a little bit more staying power with my primer, which is, you know, that happens for a lot of people. That's what a primer is for. But a lot of primers don't really work. My holy grail primer for oily skin is the Hourglass Veil Primer. And I find that that one really makes a difference. Unfortunately, it's expensive as hell, but you can always go to Sephora, get a sample to see if it works for you. but I really, really like that primer. And I do find that it extended the wear of this foundation by a good 3 hours. Because without a primer, I would say that around hour 5 to 6, it started disappearing on my face. So with the primer, I can get, if your work day is 8 hours, you can definitely get that with the primer. And if you're an oily skin, you can get 8 hours from it. It just kind of started breaking apart, in the T-zone, especially the forehead, the nose, the chin. So, it's not marketed as, a 12-hour foundation or an 18-hour foundation, or good God, some of these are marketed as 24-hour foundations. I don't wear my foundation for 24 hours, but if I can get 10 hours of really nice wear, I would love that. So this is not a long wear foundation. I mean, it doesn't claim to be, but I'm just putting that out there. So again, with the primer, 8 hours-ish, oily skin, very oily skin. So, it's a lot better than some other foundations I've tried that just slide right off my face. So I really do think that all skin types should at least try this. I think that overall, it does cover a lot of bases for people. It's gonna give you nice looking skin. It's gonna give you, variable coverage. It's gonna give you that SPF 30, which some people don't like because it often does have flashback in photos. I haven't found that to be true with this particular one. I have taken plenty of photos and I don't have like white face, tan body, but I tend to go a little bit darker with my foundation and blend it down my neck and my chest. That's just the way I am because I don't self tan my body. I just like to go a little bit darker and then blend it down. Now, am I wearing the foundation right now? The answer is no, and I'll tell you why. Sadly, as much as I do like this foundation, and it doesn't have any scent to speak of. No, nothing, if you watch some of my videos, like when I review Dior foundations and things, I cannot stand the amount of perfume that is in some foundations. But this foundation, no noticeable scent, but after wearing it for 5 days straight, oh man, my face broke out so badly. I have a huge bump here, all along here, on my forehead. Just, oh, I haven't broken out like this in I don't even know how long. And it wasn't because it was on vacation using different water. I didn't buy the foundation until I came back from Costa Rica. Basically the day after it launched, I ran right down to the store and bought it. So it's not like anything like that. I haven't changed any other skincare that I've used. I am on a medication for breakouts. I'm on spironolactone, been on it for about a year. I haven't broken out, got big cystic ones in ages. So the only thing I can attribute it to is this foundation, unfortunately. So, oof, that's painful for me to say. So if you are acne prone, be careful. Get a sample that will last you a few days and just be willing to, deal with the breakout if it should happen to you. So let me see if I covered everything. Oil-free, SPF 30, great packaging, $44, which I think is okay for 1.7 ounces. There are obviously way more expensive foundations out there. Travel friendly, great for if you are one to be out in the sun and want coverage, but you also want to have that SPF protection. Photographs well, great color selection, I find. Holds up decently. I would say without primer, you're gonna get 5 to 6 hours on an oily skin. Still need to blot, but then again, there is no foundation out there in the world that I don't have to blot my face with after at least an hour or two. So I don't think it clings to dry patches. What else can I say about it? I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, best application for me was the damp beauty blender, but again, you can use your fingers. I do find the colors, let's go to the colors. The color Groenland, it has a nice kind of velvety texture. So that's the shade. It's kind of neutral, but then when I compared it to some of my MAC foundations, I usually stick with NC and MAC because I have redness in my skin and I like the yellow to counteract it. So this is NC20 in Studio Fix. I'm gonna put it right next to it. So there's NC20, definitely more yellow than the Groenland. I did find that a lot of the NARS colors were a little bit more to the pink, which I don't get because Francois NARS is a makeup artist, so he should know that not everybody likes a pinky toned or peachy toned foundation. So MAC NC20. And then we have Gleam, which is kind of blended right into my skin, so it is a really good match. And then NC25 down here. So definitely more yellow. So again, see if you can see that. The Gleam has gone right into my skin. So if you are a neutral NC25, NC30, Gleam, great color, light number 3. So I hope that helped you. I do want to talk about something that I tried recently because I like to try foundations of all levels, like you know, your drugstore and your high end. So this is the Maybelline Dream Velvet Soft Matte Hydrating Foundation. Now I bought this when I was really self-tanned, so I got shade number 60, which is Sandy Beige, and I'll put that on next to all the others I've got here. So you can see, hopefully you can see, it's kind of blended into my skin. So it's not that dark. I mean, really, you would think 60? Whoa, that's gonna be super dark. But it's really not. I would definitely say it's a little bit peachier and just a hair darker than that light 3 from NARS. So when you're buying this, if you are gonna go buy this at the drugstore, obviously if there's no testers, 60 really isn't that dark. So be careful with those. That's the trouble with drugstore foundations, is their colors like are all over the map. But as far as the texture and the application and the wear, I found them to be very similar, meaning this and the NARS Velvet Matte. I found them to be super similar. Of course, there's gonna be people out there who are gonna disagree with me and be like, they're not similar at all. Well, I thought that they were. I thought that the coverage was very similar. The finish was very similar. The Dream Velvet has a little bit more of that, almost like a powdery, cushiony texture. So I would say, like, if you're comparing to your regular liquid foundation, like a Studio Fix that is very fluid and liquid, the NARS Velvet Matte has a little bit more of that velvety texture. The Velvet Matte has even more, I mean, the Dream Velvet has a little bit even more so than that. So if you are looking for a good dupe, I did find the staying power to be very similar. Broke up on me after about 5 hours. This one, I can't say anything about the breakouts, but because I'm kind of like in the middle of this breakout. So, but the great thing is if you're gonna try a foundation, it's much easier to swallow purchasing a $10 foundation versus one for 44 plus tax. So I would definitely say this is a dupe, at least something, you know, obviously it's not gonna be 100% dupe, but it is very close. Again, in coverage, finish, wear, packaging, and it also comes in a variety of shades. So that is that. I know somebody's gonna say that I forgot something, and I'm sure I did, but I am a little rusty with the videos. It has been 2 months since I put one out and quite a while since I've done a foundation review, but I hope I did cover everything for you. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm also on Instagram. My username is @RisaDoesMakeup, and I will look forward to seeing you all in the next video.